Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Halloween extravaganza that we do every single year here. Welcome to Football on the No Show. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, know-it-alls and monsters alike out there? Welcome back for another edition and another, yet again, Halloween special.
Absolutely.
I'm right alongside the Crow, if you will. But hey, we're going to get into this football thing. We're going to talk about all the mysteries and events that have transpired in Week 7. Looking forward to Week 8. Give you our picks in that way, and anything else that we seem to stumble upon for sure.
Absolutely, our special events that we do just for this show. And it's almost a trade deadline, Joe, here. And after a crazy week again.
It, in fact, is the trade deadline.
Yeah. So, I mean, here we go.
Right.
This is crazy because what do you even think that some of these teams might be all in on being the next, draft, looking towards the draft. Maybe they're not now. So maybe they're buyers or they're sellers here. So let's get right into it. Buying and selling. Who do you think's a buyer this
real easy. We just seen it happen already. Like a trade has been consummated, and it's the Eagles. This is a team that we, offensively, we were like, well, they're still kind of struggling. We're not seeing the offensive prowess that we saw a year ago. But again, they managed to add another weapon, not on offense, though, on defense. They trade, Tramelo Edmonds and a fourth in a 7th round pick, I believe, 6th or 7th round pick for 2024 over to the Tennessee Titans for former Pro Bowl safety Kevin Byard. And wow, I mean, all I got to say is what a great trade for the Eagles. I mean, they didn't have to give up too much in compensation for him. He comes over. He's going to just, insert himself into this already really talented defense and just make it that much better. Pro Bowl style on the back end of their secondary. So that's one trade that's already happened so far. We're still waiting to see if any other pieces get moved. Obviously there's rumors all over the place. There's different kinds of varying articles on different teams. For example, like the Raiders and the biggest player that they have offensively is Devontae Adams. And they're like, oh, is he going to get moved because, the team isn't that good and they're not really going anywhere. So will they choose to move him? So far that the Raiders have slammed the door shut and said, no, we are not interested in trading him. But there's other teams like the Tennessee Titans that we've seen already pull off that trade with Kevin Byard to the Eagles. They're also opening up shop, and it almost seems like a fire sale is happening in Tennessee. From what we're hearing right now is that not only that they've managed to trade Kevin Byard, we all know a year ago he was looking to be made a trade request, but now it's happened. But also, they are open to the idea, ladies and gentlemen, that Derrick Henry and their recent addition to their offense and Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins, they're both on the trade block. They're willing to trade those two premier players that they have, guys that are the backbone of that offense, and they are open for business. I mean, that's something that's absolutely insane to think about if you're a Titans fan. That now what? Now are we just as a Tennessee Titan fan? Like, you got to think like, if this is all true, if this is coming out now, and we're open for business, fire sale. Let's get rid of all the premier players that we have and turn them into draft picks for the upcoming offseason. If that happens, you're giving up on the rest of the year. You have literally decided that, well, we don't see our team not even contending for the wild card, and we're selling out right now. We're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about it, once you saw like Ryan Tannehill go out of that game when he got injured and stuff, you're kind of wondering what's going on with this team and what goes on moving forward, depending on how bad the injury was. Because one year you drafted Malik Willis there to be the next up and coming quarterback to run your franchise after Ryan
couple
Tannehill
years ago.
Then the season right directly after you go out and get Will Levis. I get it. He was there hanging around there. Why not take a shot here still?
Right.
But there you go. You go for another quarterback right there. So what does that even tell you in your mind or even in the fans' mind at this point? Maybe you're not sold on Malik Willis right now. So now you've got those other two quarterbacks in the same room, and you've got Ryan Tannehill out. And you've had multiple times to make the playoffs and do something with this team. What's the window right now? And obviously they went to grab DeAndre Hopkins to try and get them over the edge because when they did it, you did that trade for, A.J. Brown, get rid of him here, and they brought it even back up on the broadcast here in the Eagles game this past week. Everybody was thinking the same thing, and that what happened went down when they did that draft, that trade. Wow, I can't believe that just happened. What did they just do? Oh my goodness! They got a premier wide receiver here. They're number one, and he has traded him away. So what was your game plan? So now it seems like that the fact that it might be skittish here, that they might not even make the playoffs again, going in with a backup quarterback, that they're looking to maybe hit the reset button, but to give up your biggest asset, which I understand you want to try and get as much return as you can for some things if you're rebuilding. But some think even the way this team is, you can even just kind of retool this team. But the fact that they say they want to possibly trade Derrick Henry tells me that they want to stockpile drafts and hit the reset button.
I mean, that's the other problem with all this is that they're not a team that's out of it. Like
right.
For the decision to come forward. Now, we're not saying that this is 100% accurate, first of all. But we're saying that this
to me, why not?
Because of all the rumors and because of like the speculation that is surrounding the Tennessee Titans right now, they're not really sure what they're doing in the future anyway. For them to if they in fact, I'll say this, if they in fact move on from Derrick Henry alone, not Hopkins, but if they manage to trade Henry, that to me is showing me as a fan, if you're a Tennessee Titan fan out there, that they're giving up. And they're looking for the future. But what future are you looking at? If you start to get rid of these key pieces that you have in your arsenal right now, when the glaring need has been offensive line help, that's what you need. You need offensive line help to make this offense better. That's what's missing, really. And then defensively, obviously, there's pieces. Now that you moved on from Kevin Byard, you're going to be looking at safety. In the upcoming draft and maybe even free agency if they can sign someone in the next couple of days before the game. It baffles me as an NFL fan, though, when you're outside looking in and you start to hear this news or rumors or whatever, like a big trade like this happening with Byard, and now with the potential rumor that's circulating around about possibly moving on from Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins, who they just got this year. It doesn't logically make sense. I don't believe that they're just having a fire sale and getting rid of everybody, because you're really a quarterback and an offensive line away from returning back to pushing for the playoffs, pushing for this division, and being relevant again. Like, you got to remember, a couple years ago, they were the number one seed in the NFL, or not NFL, but AFC. They were right there with kind of the same talent. With minus A.J. Brown, obviously. But so now it's like, well, logically, the Tennessee Titans shouldn't be moving on from everybody. I understand you're paying Derrick Henry a lot of money. I understand that he is getting older. And with running backs, they age a lot faster. So why not cash in now on Derrick Henry and where you can get some kind of return? But I think that right this second, it might be a little too early. Like, why are you giving up right now on the season? It doesn't make sense. And now that Ryan Tannehill is hurt, he's going to be out for at least the next 4 weeks. That's a critical part of the season. And that might be the reasoning why the Titans are like, well, we don't have our starting quarterback that we have a ton of confidence in for the next 4 weeks. If we go 0-4 in the next 4 weeks, we are out of competition or out of contention altogether. So why not? Let's start thinking about the future after this. And you bring up like a point with the Malik Willis. They've given up on that kid way early. Like I understand that they've seen what they need to see behind closed doors and practice and preseason or whatever. But they knew when they drafted him, he was a project. He was a developmental quarterback. And then they drafted Will Levis in hoping of hitting, striking gold. And clearly that's not the case. Clearly he is another quarterback that still needs to work on things. So with missing, 2 strikes on hitting on a quarterback, and now you're looking forward to when Tannehill does leave the team, because it's likely that he's not going to stick around. What's your future like? You still, after those misses at that position, you still don't have a quarterback for the future. You still need help on offensive line. And defensively, you're not terrible. You have pieces to work with. So don't cash in right now. Don't sabotage basically your offense that you do have, the pieces that you do have, and say, oh, well, we're going to just kind of rewrite the script on offense altogether. We're removing all these players that we have. We're cashing in, and then we'll work on the future in the offseason. I think it's a bad decision if, in fact, this is all true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was funny is when they did bring Terrell Edmunds, I thought, hey, all right, they're going to try and they're buying in now. Maybe they're doing the trade, and then now they're going to kind of try and figure out and make a push to see what they could do. Because if you look at that division, even if you look outside of what Jacksonville's doing right now, you got Houston and Indianapolis who are still at 500 and just under. It's still you could do something in the division.
Yeah, but I mean,
Jacksonville, because you played Jacksonville twice, remaining in the season.
Right.
You play the Panthers and
you play divisional opponents.
A couple other teams that you could pull out some victories, the Texans again within your division. So it's not out of the realm to even come back into this division.
No, but you definitely took a huge downgrade. That's the whole reason why Terrell Edmunds, they hey, take our starting safety we have now, because he's not Kevin Byard.
Yeah.
He's a average safety, started with the Steelers, ended up with the Eagles, and now is on the Titans. So I mean, clearly he's not that kind of a go-to type of player to be a playmaker, but again, they get a couple of draft picks in return. They get a replacement safety, if you will, in Terrell Edmunds, and it's just like, I don't know. I understand. Byard was most likely going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. Like he wanted out before, and I think this was an opportunity the Titans had a phone call conversation about, and they're like, well, now's the time to move on from him. We can get something for him instead of losing him into free agency. We know we're not going to use the tag on him, so let's just pull the trigger. And they did. So let's see what happens with Tennessee going forward.
All right. We've got our first comment of the night, Joe.
What's going on? Mike Tackett's in the house, everybody. OG know-it-all himself. Welcome to the show, my brother. Said, what's scarier, Jimmy being Sting for Halloween?
Oh, that's a good one.
Or Scott Fitterer's job security in Carolina?
That is true. I kind of do look a little like Sting now, but I'll accept that, though. Because he mimicked the Crow too. My white paint came out a really, really, really white and pasty. It's crazy how it ends up being. So I don't know though. It's fine. It's fine. All right, here you go. But he said, "What's scarier?"
I appreciate
besides
the comment.
That? Yeah, absolutely. Or Scott Fitterer's job security in Carolina. Yeah. That's probably scarier at this point.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, let's just take Carolina for what they are. Everybody knew that this was a team rebuilding. Right? They are a very young team. They have a young defense. They have a lot of young players on offense too. And now they have a rookie quarterback who is still trying to figure out the NFL. Speed-wise, X's and O's wise. And sometimes he's shown flashes of executing the plays that they need to and putting points on the board. And then there's other times when he's made a lot of mistakes and turned the ball over. So he's still trying to figure it out. So, I mean, overall with that team, we know that they were rebuilding. We know that they're going to keep moving forward with what they have, obviously. And they're hoping that, Bryce Young is going to be the answer. We'll have to wait and see. We won't know until maybe a couple more years down the road whether that, the answer rears its head. But we'll see. We'll see with Carolina.
Well, it's funny. You want to talk about job security. I was also just watching a different video on YouTube to break down the fact that how accurate really is Mel Kiper, and how has he been? He's been terrible in picking draft picks and things forever. How is he still an analyst? He's almost like the weatherman that gets the weather wrong 90% of the time, but still has a job somehow for one of the biggest conglomerates in the world and sports all around.
Just like
after all the
else.
layoffs, how is he still there? When you think about it, now he's off.
Honestly,
kind of funny.
It's the
job
best
security.
position to have. Well, I mean, think about it. It's just like any analyst on any panel right now. It's all opinionated. They don't have to be right. They're going to be wrong a lot of times, maybe even more times than you would think. But it's an opinionated position. As long as you're doing a good job and you have knowledge behind your opinions, and it makes sense what you're talking about, you're going to keep that job. So Mel Kiper's been doing it before anybody else. And that's kind of really the reasons, is because he's been there, done that more than anybody, and has been so great in terms of, it's not like he can't find talent. He knows talent. It's just about where they're going. He might disagree with what team drafts a player or doesn't draft a player, and he thinks, oh, well, that